Alrighty.
Okay.
Feedback? All right, we're good.
All right.
Damn feedback. It'll probably kick in again because that's our luck when we have somebody new on. Everything goes wrong.
Oh.
And then it's like just Will and I, like it goes perfectly.
So it is your fault, Logan, is what we're saying.
Right. Yeah.
It's just-
And I fully accept that.
Exactly. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 140th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. My name is SBJ, and with me today on our delightful show, I have David.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Long time no speak.
Exactly. And with David, I have our Facebook winner. We ran a Facebook competition, like share and like this, to get shameless views. But out of that, Logan was the one who won that, and he is here with us today.
Hey, everybody.
And Logan, you, a couple questions since this is your first time on. I'll run down the basics. How long have you been listening? How did you discover the show? And favorite Pokemon?
You guys are the only Pokemon thing that comes up when you search podcasts on iTunes that has any good ratings. So it seemed obvious. And then the content was actually really cool, so I kept listening. I've been playing Pokemon since it came out, like the day it came out. And yeah, still really into it. I've got a webcomic where we do a lot of Pokemon comics, downplusa.com, to shamelessly plug myself.
Perfect. That's what we all do here.
Yeah. That's really what it is. That's all we really do this for, you know.
Yeah. Just self-promotion. I understand.
I only want to be popular.
Yeah,
so
that's all
why.
Steve's in it for. It's a well-done fact.
Well, you're doing a bang-up job.
Rocking the charts.
Other than that, my life has been consumed by the getting ready for the VGC. I'm going to the Georgia one this weekend, so should be good.
First tournament or no?
It'll be my second VGC regional, but last time I had my team done the day that I went there, and this time I've played like 200 or actually more like 400 games on the battle spot, so I feel a lot more prepared.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, when I did Nationals VGCs, me and my friend that was doing it with me, we stayed up till like 2 o'clock in the morning the night before doing the battle subway it was then to get all our items. Not a good way to do well in a tournament is to be doing it at like 2 o'clock the night before. So
yeah, the first time I got beat down by 12-year-olds, it was awesome.
I'm getting beat down by 12-year-olds no matter how long I take to prepare, probably at a Pokemon tournament.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we got a pretty cool show for you guys today. Travis is MIA, if that is the right 3 letters to put together.
Yep. We don't know if he's in action necessarily. He might just be sleeping, and that'd be the opposite of MIA. He'd not be doing very much at all.
MIS.
Yes. MII, missing in inaction.
Our show today for you guys is going to be some news. We got a little bit of news to cover for you. Then we're going to take a quick break, and we will come back, and then we are going to talk about IVs. Not necessarily how to get IVs, but generally our overall thoughts of IVs and how the system works, and if we like it and we don't like it. Pretty much it's just going to be me complaining.
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
which is
Spoiler
no different.
alert, we don't like it.
Which is no different than any other show.
Yeah.
Then we'll take another quick break, and we'll do our Pokemon of the Week like we always do. First bit of news. Actually, before we jump into news, I said I was going to credit the person who wrote Fairy Friday because I did not have their name. So I do want to credit Jason Coulet, could be French, He wrote a pretty cool and in-depth article about Klefki for the Fairy Friday that we're starting to do. So if you haven't, we talked about it last week. It kind of breaks down how you can use Klefki in a battle, and some other stuff about it. So you should check that out on the site.
I totally got hyped to use Klefki by reading that article. I experimented with him last week.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Klefki's an awesome Pokemon. Steel Fairy is just a badass type. I love that
Oh,
type.
yeah.
you would think it looks kind of useless because of how small it is and everything.
That's the best part.
There's that in the new movie. They have the little animation of Klefki like opening a door to the portal. That was something really cool that I didn't like. Have you guys seen that? In
No.
the Pikachu short preview for the new Pokemon movie coming out, it shows Klefki like, I can only assume it's using the move Fairy Lock or something like that, but it is like opening up a portal to another dimension and going through it. It's really weird, but pretty cool. A different look at Klefki, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So go check that out. It's in the trailer.
Speaking of trailers, well, not really trailers, but more so movies, Hulu has 2 more Pokemon movies that just got added about a week ago. Obviously, the best movies, Pokemon Arceus, The Jewel of Life, and Zoroark, Master of Illusions. I actually haven't seen either of these 2.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not a big anime guy, but Zoroark was the one with the shiny legendary beasts, right? Zoroark and the Master of Illusion? I'm pretty sure it is.
I believe so. I think that one was the first black and white one too, as well.
Yeah, probably. Because it still has Dawn on there with Piplup and Brock, and
Yeah,
that makes sense. So these are the 2 Sinnoh, or the 2 movies with the Sinnoh. I'm sure there are more than that, actually. But Arceus is always cool. Cool to see him getting a little bit of the spotlight.
I would assume that would be like a movie with Arceus would have to be good, right?
I have no idea. I haven't seen any of it.
If any of them, right?
If any of them, it would have to be that one.
Oh, it looks like from the poster, that's the one with the notch-eared Pichu as well. And the rest of the creation trio or quartet or whatever, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina and that guy. So, and Celebi is in the Zoroark movies. I feel like they just put a bunch of random legendaries in all the movies.
I'm gonna sign up for the free trial of Hulu just to like power watch Pokemon for a weekend.
Yeah.
Because I personally don't think Hulu's worth paying for, but that's just me.
Is this on the Hulu Plus or just the normal?
Yeah, Hulu Plus.
Okay, what Pokemon, and aren't there Pokemon episodes on just the normal Hulu?
Yes, I think it's just some of the Sinnoh episodes. Not any of the movies. The movies are Hulu Plus only.
Which one has, or is it Netflix that has Origins? Organs?
Nope, Hulu has Origins. Hulu has
Oh,
Origins.
Hulu has organs. Oh,
yeah,
that's
but that's Plus as well.
yeah. What else is on Hulu Plus? I feel like Netflix has everything.
Netflix
It wasn't like
has
Parks
Black
and
and
Rec
White.
used to be on?
And
Oh, I was talking about just regular.
Hulu does have Parks and Rec.
Okay, but Netflix does too now, I guess.
Oh, does it? I know Netflix has Breaking Bad.
I don't know what Hulu Plus has.
Hulu Plus has a lot of Family Guy.
Okay, that makes sense. But does Netflix have that too? I don't know. I know Netflix has American Dad.
I don't think has all the Family Guy.
Okay, and Hulu Plus does.
Yeah.
So if you got to
So
see
if you
all
want
like
all the Family
8,000
Guy.
episodes, yeah, if you want to see 7 billion episodes of Family Guy, you can watch it on Hulu Plus.
If you want us to only talk about Family Guy, please rate us in iTunes 1 star, and we'll know that we should switch over to.
It's Super Family Guy.
It's Super Family Guy. TCG Talk. That's always fun. David, you still playing TCG?
I've said that I'm going to get back into TCG like 8 times now, and I get all excited and I buy just enough money to where I waste a bunch of money on it, but I never have enough money to actually like go to tournaments and put together good decks. So no, I'm not into the TCG is what I'm trying to say.
Awesome.
I am a poor college student.
Yes. I still dropped out. I mean, I talked about when I went to a tournament like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I switched over to Netrunner and I started playing Netrunner more, and I definitely, like, the more I play Netrunner, the more I realize how broken the Pokemon system is.
Yeah.
I haven't heard very much at all about Netrunner besides what you and Will have tweeted about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Netrunner was originally made by Richard Garfield, the guy who made Magic the Gathering, and then Fantasy Flight bought it, and then a new like head dude kind of revamped some of the rules. And then what they do is they release data packs every month. So once a month, Sometimes it's once every 2 months. They release a data pack, which is $15, comes with 60 cards, and then you get 3 copies of every card. So it's 20 different cards, but you get 3 copies of all the cards, and you can only run 3 copies in a deck. And there are no rare cards. There are no going to eBay.
So you pretty much just buy you buy the entire set with everything you need.
Yep.
So it's more deck building. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So once you're caught up, I think there's 10 data packs total. But once you're caught up, you have everything, and then you just spend $15 every 3 months or every 1 to 2 months, and then you're always current.
Dang, that's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah,
Is the world cool? Is the world cool? Because I like fantasy a lot better than sci-fi.
Do you like
and
hacking?
card games. Yeah, I don't know.
They're totally hacking.
Yeah, it's a lot about hacking and computer stuff.
Yeah, is there?
The cool thing is there's 4 corporations because it's an asymmetrical game, which means the person playing the corp will have a totally different deck than the person playing the runner. So there are 3 different kind of runners and 4 different corporations, and each corporation is very specific. There's NBN, which is kind of like the news, so they do a lot of tagging and watching what you're doing. And then there's something like Wayland, which is all about getting money really fast. And
whoa, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Wait,
and then
so does a person like you say oh, I play, or I'm main runner or whatever, I usually play runner, is that a thing, or do you just kind of play whatever you need?
You play 2 games, right?
Yeah, you play 2 games,
Oh,
so you
okay.
switch. And then on the runner side, there's the hacker, there is the criminal, and then there's a shaper. And then, so they all have different play styles, which is getting really deep into it. But then each fraction, if you're a criminal, there's 3 different criminal persons you can pick from, and so it kind of goes deeper. But the big flaw I figured out in Pokemon after playing a lot of Netrunner is Pokemon you can dead draw, or you can play down to 1 or just draw nothing, and your whole turn is wasted. In Netrunner, if there's something you can't do, if you want to play a card but you can't because you don't have it, there's still stuff you can do to progress the game. I can't play any cards this turn, but I can at least get money from the bank, or I can at least do this. There's always something you can do on your turn, whereas Pokemon, it's if you're not doing anything on your turn, which is sometimes frequent, you're losing.
Yeah. The one thing, when I was playing Pokemon, they have a million tutor cards. In most games, it's really hard to get a specific card out of your deck, but in Pokemon, you're drawing and searching all the time.
Yeah, that kind of depends on the format, though. It kind of goes through I haven't played very much in the past couple of years, but it kind of goes through fast and slow formats from what I've seen.
Yeah.
There are some formats where supporters are really your only draw power, but now as it's kind of as they get deeper into the sets, as they got into the plasma sets, it seemed like the game was going faster. But whereas with X and Y, it seems like the XY on format is going to be a little bit slower. That's how it was with Heart Gold Soul Silver, at least, and Black White on.
I feel like it's the current format right now is fast.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot like the format that I played in, the SP format, and I like that a lot because it has the plasma engine, pretty much, the plasma balls. It's a little bit overpowered, it seems, and a little bit not fun to play against, but it's fun to play as them, just like it was fun to play SP. So I kind of like that. Is there a big like competitive, or is there like a big scene for Netrunner? Or
it's getting big. Like Android Netrunner started, I want to say, just shy of 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 10 data packs, a data pack every month, plus the core set. Yeah, so about 2 years ago.
It seems like it would be expensive to get in late, is it? Because you have to buy all the packs, or...
So I bought the core set, which comes with like 250 cards. It pretty much comes with enough cards to make every deck, or every base deck. So you can make 7 decks, but you have to... There's like 14 cards at... There's 14 cards for the runner and like 14 cards for the corp. So you make the core... So you make all 4 corp decks and all 3 runner decks, and then you take those 14 cards and you splash them in to whichever deck you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're done, you just take the 14 out and you can splash it in. So you can play with all 7 different things right away. And then I bought a couple, like, you can get data packs off Amazon for like $10. So really, like, overall, it's like $150 investment, and then you're done. Then you're caught up. which is like
Okay.
totally different than Pokemon, because Pokemon every
Pokemon.
3 months I was spending $200 for like 2 boxes of cards, and I still didn't get everything I needed.
Yeah, you get the thing with Pokemon cards is, I don't know if it's like, and it doesn't seem like it's like this with Netrunner, but like if you buy a pack of Pokemon cards, there's like a 50% chance that it's just you get absolutely nothing out of the pack.
Yeah.
Pokemon is very, very expensive, which is why I haven't been able to get back into it, despite my love for Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's very luck based.
But yeah,
Netrunner, this is going to become like a Netrunner podcast all of a sudden. Netrunner has this thing where, because it's asymmetrical, the corporation has all the points, and so you need 7 points to win the game. So when you're building a corporation deck, it's required to put a set amount of points in. And so the runner is trying to steal those points, the corporation is trying to defend those points. So there's a lot of like tension of like, I don't know what's behind this wall of ice, which is the barriers to get the points.
yeah.
So when you make the run, the corporation will reveal the wall, and that's when you have like a conflict resolution part of the game. It doesn't really depend on luck. It just depends on like,
Yeah,
if you want to take certain risks at certain times.
but it's risks against what your opponent has put in place, like specifically by their hand, not like by luck of the draw.
Right.
Is what you're saying? Yeah. That sounds awesome. I'll probably check that out.
Yeah.
I mean, Fantasy Flight does a pretty good job most of the time. They've got a lot of really good games, and more than one living card game too. Like the Game of Thrones one, since you're into fantasy, that's a living card game. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's set up exactly like Netrunner. It's like $25 to get in, and then $15 every month.
I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan yet. I haven't watched any of it, but
I haven't watched any of it either.
they made Blood Bowl. It looks like.
Oh, that one's good.
I played
That's
that
not
on PC. Yeah, that was a board game. Yeah,
yeah.
that
But
I
it's
got
like
on PC.
it's basically like where the video game you're playing one game at a time. The card game is like an entire season in one like 30-minute session. It's actually really
So you kind of
cool.
have your. Oh, that's.
And it's way less crying, because if you play real Blood Bowl, your dudes die and you have to cry.
They also do the Star Wars X-Wing game, which is like super popular now.
I haven't seen that. I'm not a bit. I have a Power Grid, and that's about it in my board game.
If you
collection.
like, if you were to like, at least the 2 board game stores in my area, like when you go, like there's always somebody playing X-Wing, and they always have X-Wing tournaments every Saturday morning. But I mean, that's like a miniature. And Fantasy Flight makes it, but it's like a miniature game that's not as complicated as Warhammer or anything.
Yeah.
But we Pokemon stuff.
Yeah, we are a Pokemon podcast.
Allegedly.
On Wednesday, May 7th, 2014, the next expensive set of Pokemon TCG is coming out. So you now have your choice of committing or switching to a different game. So there are, this is like the Charizard set. It's called Flashfire. They've revealed 2 different Mega Charizards, Mega Charizard X and Mega Charizard Y. They also have a Pyroar in the set, which has a pretty cool ability. Overall, though, there's going to be 100 new cards, including Mega Kangaskhan EX as well. The big thing here is this is the most amount of damage we've seen from a single move in the game, not counting moves that can do unlimited damage depending on coin flips. But both Mega Charizards can do up to 300 damage for their moves, but it is a very expensive. It's 5 energy costs to do that, and most players in the trading card game don't play Pokemon that have more than 3 energy cost.
Yeah. And
300
these are
does
all
seem excessive.
the Mega Evolution. I just really hate the Mega Evolution mechanic because it ends your turn. See, when you Mega Evolve, your turn ends just like it does in the game, right? No, not at all. I hate that so much.
Exactly.
I don't know. And they can only use this attack. That's something I didn't know either. They can it's like evolving in that you can't. This is pretty much just basic Pokemon TCG stuff, I guess, that I'm just explaining core rules of the game. But I didn't understand that they can't use their pre-evolution stuff. It's not like a level X card or something like that. I don't know why it would be. But you're stuck using Crimson Dive or Wild Blaze if you're Mega Evolving your Charizard here.
Yeah, what frustrates me to still go on the hating Pokemon TCG bandwagon is these they get like a 50 to 60 HP boost when they Mega Evolve, and that's nothing in the game.
Yeah.
Like, you were still going, almost everything in the Pokemon TCG is either you do a one-hit KO, which Charizard can do a one-hit KO with 300 damage, or you plan it for a two-hit KO, where you do like 90 and 90. And if you're wasting a turn to evolve, you're pretty much taking like 90 damage for free. So then it still ends up being a two-hit KO afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and wait, I don't know what I was going to say.
It does seem really costly. But one of the main reasons I got out of Pokemon was, like, at the time, the tournaments were one game and done. But I think you guys mentioned it's best of 3 now, right?
Yes.
So that fixes a lot of stuff right there.
It does. It is better.
Mm-hmm.
To have like one fact to not hate Pokemon TCG.
Yeah, the best out of 3 is better, except if somebody's slow playing. That's the only time where it's not better. But you're going to get that in the regular game anyways.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff I've seen just from, because I do follow a bunch of people that play the TCG, and it seems like a lot of the higher up competitive players are ending with ties, which is a little weird. I feel like ties are a much more common occurrence now, it seems like.
Yep, totally. Ties are very common, and and they like cut how top cut is. So when I went to states, normally the top cut was top 16, and then they changed it to top 8. So it was like, oh, even if you did super well and made top 16 out of 200 players, you're still going home at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth saying that this is our equivalent of Japan's Wild Blaze set. So we already know most of the cards that are coming out. If you just want to check on PokeBeach or some other Pokemon TCG focus site, they have a lot of the cards that are very likely going to be in our Flash Fire set.
And for those that are on, I don't know if any of our listeners are ever on the fence of getting into the TCG or not getting into the TCG. If you are on the fence of getting into the TCG, I would say bite the bullet if you have more than one other person to play with.
Mm-hmm. That is a big part of it, because I don't really have anyone that plays around here. None of my close friends do, I guess, is what I should say. And it is kind of lame. Your options are pretty much play TCG or the Pokemon TCG Online thing, which a lot of people like, but I haven't really been able to get into. It's too hard to build decks.
Yep, that was my complaint with it.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to our next bit of news. Not really news, but it's an article on the site that I want to pimp real quick. It's a new feature, another new feature that we're doing. So we have Fairy Friday, Mega Monday, and we have a new article by Travis. Not our Travis, the other Travis. Travis with the dollar sign as an S. Travis 2.0. He wrote an article called Pump, which stands for Power Up My Pokemon, Flareon edition. So these articles touch on the author's usually favorite Pokemon or Pokemon they really like, but that aren't ever used in competitive battle. So these articles are to break down how you could possibly use your favorite Pokemon in a competitive battle. So it's kind of set up the same as our Mega Mondays and Fairy Fridays, whereas we give you natures you should use, moves you should use, abilities, natures. It has a bunch of info. The artwork in this is from Aaron Spriggs from the 649 Monster Show. It's kind of an infographic about Flareon. So
That's
if you weren't, I don't ever think this got put online. So this might be the first time people are seeing the infographic.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, it's a really cool piece, and the whole article is really great. So please check that out at PokemonPodcast.com. Next bit of news is It's Super Effective is on Omni Radio, which isn't the best kind of news since this app is for Australia only. But they reached out to me because their whole company really likes the show, and they wanted the show to be on their radio station. What Omni is it's a radio service that breaks up. It's designed so when you're like in the car or like running or doing a workout, it's designed where it takes podcasts and breaks them into like 2-3 minute chunks. So like you listen to 3 minutes of a podcast, then it jumps to like a 3-minute song, and then it jumps to like another 3-minute podcast. And so I break up the show so it's in like little bits. So then when you're listening, it's like a couple songs, a couple podcasts, get a little bit of news, get a little bit of
That's
music.
a great idea, actually.
Yeah,
I've had an idea for something similar to that.
well, they're making the money now.
Yeah, they stole it. They stole it, and they're cashing in on that hot Australian market. And I only dreamed that I could. I only dreamed that I could be raking in the AUS dollars.
So it is coming to the States. They told me this summer. It'd be cool to check out, but if you are an Australian listener, Omni is free, and they're really cool. They obviously approached me, and they wanted the show in their radio service. So it only took me like 10 minutes to have It's Super Effective just appear, just because it's kind of like Pandora, where you can like thumbs up things or whatever, so you can get a better read of what you actually want throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Oh, so you don't like subscribe to things? It just like
You can do that too.
Okay.
But then it also like reads your iPod and sees what music's there, so that's how it like flips in songs.
Okay.
And I think you can sign into Spotify, so it can pull your favorites from Spotify as well.
That's rocking. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah. Last bit of news before we take our break is
bit of news.
Google and Pokemon. Who would have thought?
I my two favorite things in the world, almost.
We're recording this on March 31st. Tomorrow is April Fool's Day. When you guys are listening to this, it'll be April 1st or any day after April 1st. We were expecting Pokemon to do an April Fool's joke as they did last year, which was the Pokemon Academy. If you guys remember that.
Wait, who did that?
Pokemon? They did we're enrolling classes for Pokemon Academy kind of thing.
Oh.
Ooh, I very vaguely remember that, but no, I don't.
Just like this news, I really would do that.
Yes.
Yeah, it had, I can't remember all the classes they had, but I remember they had Professor Juniper, and it explained that classes are starting soon, and these are the 8 different classes you could sign up for. I think Pokemon breeding was one of them. And then every year Google does something. Google usually does 2 or 3 things. Mm-hmm. But this year, starting today, they were a day early. Google Maps and Pokemon actually teamed up, and they did the Google Maps Pokemon Challenge, and which involved a pretty sweet 3-minute video explaining that you can take your Android or iOS device and walk around the world and use augmented reality to catch Pokemon that are around us.
Now, is that
it
real?
Looks so cool. No.
No, not
Lower
at all.
your expectations.
Okay, I was, because I'd never know. There are no Pokemon in Arkansas, so apparently.
Well, it's good and bad because mostly bad. You're not going to be able to do the radical fishing
Yeah,
thing
that'd
where
be
you caught
sweet.
the
Oh yeah, I saw that part. That was a
so
little
cool. It actually is just you can scroll through Google Maps and there's just little sprites of the monsters. So Munchlax is in front of the Empire State Building.
Yeah, that's where I found him too.
That was
Weird.
the surprising thing is after they showed this video, it was oh, great April Fools, but then they actually incorporated it into the app.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, the video said we will pick a Pokemon Master at 2 p.m. on April 2nd or something like that. And then it said that.
I kind of thought that was real too.
Yeah,
because if anyone has the ability to just throw around a year's salary, I think it'd be Google.
And then if you watch at the very end, it kind of says how they didn't plan on picking anyone or something like that because the position doesn't exist. So because the position doesn't exist, they can't pick somebody. Something like that at the end.
They have to battle in order to know how to determine the winner, and they haven't battled yet. So
right, yeah, that was the reasoning. But you can actually you don't have to download or install anything. The Pokédex, the Pokemon stuff is already incorporated into the apps on either iOS or Android. And they picked a random 150, not 150 from the first gen. It's just 150 from all the gens, which was a little weird.
I really liked that. I like that a lot, actually.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I just don't understand the reasoning for picking.
Yeah, it's
Pokemon.
It seems like there's all the pseudo legendaries. There's a lot of the starters. I'm not sure if it's all the starters, but I found a good number of the starters, like Squirtle, the whole Greninja line. It seems like, or maybe just Froakie and Greninja.
I thought it was the whole lines usually.
Okay, yeah, the whole Meganium line too is one.
You can look in the Pokedex, and then it has the numbers of all the dudes. So.
Yeah, well, that's not those aren't the actual Pokédex numbers, though.
Oh, I didn't know
Pikachu.
that.
Yeah, no, Pikachu's number 11. They have all the gens in there.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't like it only for those who haven't tried it or are not seeing Pokemon in the area. It only works for like heavy populated areas. So or just like landmarks. So if you like type in the Eiffel Tower or Tesla Motors or Apple headquarters, Google headquarters.
That was my journal plan. I went through I went down the list of like Google headquarters or Google offices and all the Pokemon centers, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's one. Rotom is at Nintendo World, New York.
Yep.
Yep, that's it. That's where I found them too.
There was nothing at like Nintendo's headquarters unless it didn't load for me.
Yeah, no, I didn't find anything there either.
I also thought that an obvious one was like where Kanto actually is or where the region was based on. I didn't find anything there either.
That's what I did too. I went through because it said in the, or it didn't say, it showed in the trailer, it had like that area of Japan where Hoenn is and it like superimposed Hoenn over it. You know what I mean?
That was really cool.
It did that flash through thing. But I went to each of those places like to look for Pokemon and I couldn't find any Pokemon on that entire island. So...
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing.
Yeah. How many did you into it, Steve?
I was like doing it at work. I stopped at I think like 52 or 53.
Yeah, I have about there too. 57. Yeah.
One of the writers, Mitchell, he got all 150 right before the show. And
wow.
It just says like congratulations. That's it.
Dang. Was the Mega Raichu revealed?
No Mega Raichu. No Mega Raichu. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It starts with Pichu.
I mean, if they're in cahoots with, what if they did that? That would be amazing.
That would be really cool.
Then people would think it was an April Fool's joke.
So I don't know if there's much more to talk about than that. I mean, like super cool that who knew that these two companies would get together to do something like that.
Right.
So I wonder if that's part of like Nintendo's way of incorporating more on iOS, because obviously for like this, I guess this was meant for us, but really like the fact that this like hit major news sites like The Verge and TechCrunch and all this other stuff, and then if you read the comments of like, oh my god, I haven't played Pokemon in 2,000 years. I had Red when I was a kid. Now I'm gonna do this because it's free and it's like I don't have to do anything. It's already integrated.
Mm-hmm. And they get exposure to the new Pokemon. And they picked really cool Pokemon, I'd say. They have like, it's like Chandelure and like all the pseudo legendaries.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I really like that. And it might give people some exposure to the new guys.
I know my whole office at work I was like, oh, check this out on Google. And everybody was excited about it, regardless of their experience with Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Google did all the work, and Google has unlimited money, so this probably sold like at least a dozen Pokemon games.
At least 12.
At least 12.
I kind of hope that this means that they'll be in cahoots in the future for things. I don't know, or that just this augmented reality Pokemon thing will become more.
Oh my gosh.
That would be that's my ultimate
testing the
dream.
Waters for Pokemon Snap or something.
Ooh, I don't know about that. That would be even more amazing.
That would be the best. If I could really do the thing like the guy tracking an Onix through New York, that was so cool.
That was cool. And then everyone around him just
was
giving him like, what are you doing?
Yeah. that was a Steelix, by the way. That wasn't an Onix.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Yeah, that's
Start the show over.
My ex-favorite Pokemon. No, I just got to stand up for my dude.
Also, when like he found the Charizard in the cage or in the cave, I was like, throwing a Pokeball isn't going to catch him on your first try, man. This is a Charizard. And then there was a random Emboar just hanging out on a Tokyo roof. I was like, what?
He was probably someone's Pokemon, and she just stole it. Like a Snag'em ball. Yeah.
Yeah, just got to do it. Last bit of stuff before we jump to our break is we ran. That was all the news for everyone, by the way. If you're expecting more news, you're not getting it.
Yeah, you might as well turn off the podcast now.
We're done
Nothing new here.
We ran a huge article about Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Huge article about Twitch Plays Pokemon.
The biggest article in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We had a whole bunch of writers, and we did all 17 days and the breakdown of every day. So if you didn't watch it, or you just wanted to know what happened, maybe kind of get where some of the jokes came from, We had 10 different writers write this. It took about a month to do. We were planning on releasing it right after they beat the first Twitch Plays Pokemon, because this is just about version red. But obviously they beat it very fast, and then they just moved on, and they kept going.
Immediately, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't mess around. So it is on the site. It's at the top of the site. There's a little banner saying The Journey of Red. So you should check it out. I just want to give a shout out to everyone who worked on it. So I was the guy who thought of doing this article, and I didn't do any work past that.
So you get like 90% of the credit.
So I get all the credit. Actually, the only thing I did is I laid it all out and made it look fancy and stuff like that. So that took way longer than expected. And I wanted to make it fancier, but I would rather get it out than just keep holding on to it. Mm-hmm. But the main person in charge of the project was Josh Duke. He's kind of my second-hand man when it comes to running the website, kind of like how Travis is better than David when it comes to running the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. So Josh pretty much did all the work, so big thanks to Josh. Our writers, Josh Duke was a writer, Christopher, I'm going to slaughter all these names, Christopher Zavolis, Ryan Davidson, Amanda Farda, Ami Marie, Mitchell Wolf, Tony Biggis, Bill Crook, Gabriel Orduna, Steve O'Peter, Jason Cool, and then everyone who proofread this monster of a beast. This article has 50,000 plus words.
And that was after Josh cut like half of them, right?
Yeah.
Or was that before?
No, that was after Josh cut a bunch of stuff. So our proofreaders were Josh, William Anderson, our man on the show, David Thomas, and then all the art besides like the little banner and just the layout, all the art was done by Jeff Theedy. He was the gentleman who did the Mega Heracross art. Fantastic artist.
So cool.
So if you go to the credits and you want to see more of Jeff's art, you can click that link to take. Otherwise, all the writers here that I just mentioned, they have been doing articles. So if you like their stuff, highly recommend just commenting on the article, just saying what you liked or what you didn't like so we can make the site better for you guys. As I choke. Otherwise, I think that's all I got for the first segment here.
All right.
Travis is still MIA, so we will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go down the rabbit hole of Pokemon IVs. And we are back from our break to talk about some IVs. Woo! Future topic. Before we break down IVs and whatnot, we're not going to tell you how you can get them or what Pokemon you need to breed or what items you should use. But David is very up and coming when it comes to the Pokemon stuff. So do you just want to give a short explanation of what IVs are for our listeners?
Okay. Just to clarify, we're talking about Ivysaurs, right?
How many Ivysaurs?
Pokemon number 2. Okay. Well, okay. IVs are pretty much Pokemon genetics. So, each Pokemon has an IV, in addition to having their stats, in addition to having their natures and their EVs. The last thing that affects their stats are called IVs. They're called individual values, and they're like stats for your stats, pretty much. So each Pokemon has a value ranging from 0 to, is it 0 or 1 at the lowest? Okay. Yeah, it has a stat ranging from 0 to 31, and each of it's given HP, attack, speed, defense, special defense, and whatever. Is that all of them? I don't know.
All those things.
Yeah, and what IV breeding is, or what breeding generally mostly is trying to get 31, 31, 31, 31, and then another 31, and then an X, right? Because there's only five.
Five
X,
31s and an X.
Yeah, and then X being, well, generally some Pokemon mix sweepers, I guess, need to have all 31s, right?
Yeah, if you want to spend a long time.
But yeah, generally people just go for, if they have a physical attacker, they want 31 in HP, attack, defense, special defense and speed, and just have whatever it may be in special attack, because it doesn't matter because you're never going to be using special attack. So when you hear people talking about 5 IV Pokemon, that means they have 5 perfect IVs and 1 that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And 6 IVs being 1 with all 6.
Another example is like Snorlax. You wouldn't really care for the speed factor.
Yeah, exactly. And some people even go so far as on Pokemon that are using like Trick Room stuff, they even go for the zeros in the speed IV.
Yeah, my Ferrothorn has a 0 for his speed.
Because you want him as slow as possible.
Yeah, and that's even really harder to do. The way people do this is it's made, to be fair, I don't know, how should we just go into this topic?
All right, so oh god, I'm already messing this up. All right, so David explained the basics of IVs and how you can get them. Travis has just joined us.
Finally let me out of that dungeon. I was running out of oxygen. It was a whole thing. You should see the movie. It's pretty good.
Oh god.
Even Saw?
I mean, there's a lot of Saw sequels. That's probably one of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like a monkeys at typewriters kind of thing at this point.
Right.
Oh, God.
Travis appears in one of them.
This episode's just getting better. We have Travis here now.
You mean worse?
Yes. Before we get too far into things, when was IVs introduced? Gen 3?
Gen 3.
2, Gen 3? I have no idea.
So Gens 1 and 2 had the stat EXP system, and then Gen 3 introduces IVs and abilities.
I had like a 18% chance of getting that right. So how this whole why we are all together today, the 4 of us, to talk about IVs. This all kind of started because there are usually frequent arguments on Twitter about IVs and whether it should or should not be in the game, and that usually involves the 3 of us, and then Logan got into the last one, and at the same time, Logan also won the Facebook contest, and he was like, I want to talk about this, so that's why we are dedicating this middle segment to IVs, because we all have a passionate side about this topic.
Yeah.
And the main reason I kind of sprung this up on Twitter and was complaining was because of Pokemon Bank. I was transferring all my boxes into my new game, and I was just thinking about like how useless these Pokemon are because they don't have perfect IVs. And even if I wanted to start breeding, because they don't have IVs to breed into newer Pokemon, there would be little to no point in actually ever using or looking at these Pokemon again, except that it would add to my Pokedex. That would be the plus side of that.
And all the memories you have with those beautiful, wonderful Pokemon.
That's right. All the ones that I just caught to catch, and then that been boxed forever. But there are some, like the ones I ran through my team. But we can get to my opinion later, since everyone kind of knows where I stand on that. But David can go ahead and start off his opinion, and then we'll kind of go around circle, and hopefully we get so angry at each other that we don't actually finish recording this show.
I start a spin-off show. Not a spin-off show. I just leave and start my own thing, like a solo project. You know how Oasis released that EP that's literally just the one, like the first track is the one brother yelling about the other brother, and the second track is the other way around.
I do not know that.
That's the thing that happens.
I feel like Oasis is brought up a lot on this show. Yeah, no one.
Didn't we bring up Wonderwall like 2 episodes ago?
Yeah.
I think that's just a side effect of having Travis on the show.
I don't know if Travis legitimately likes Oasis. Or
I like that one album.
Who doesn't like Wonderwall? That's
the one with Wonderwall.
Yeah, it's What's the Story? Morning Glory is the album, and that one's good. And that's about it.
In a while, Crocodile. I don't know. That's the vibe I got from that. Crocodile, I guess. See you later, for alligator. Okay, I'll start here. Okay, and I don't know how much of this I said in the section you said earlier, or that we recorded earlier, and now Travis is here, but I'm just going to start.
I just ruined everything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, we were excited. As soon as you logged on, we were like, oh, gotta stop. Travis is here.
Get him on board.
Yep, this show is not going any farther
Get him board on the negative train. Woo!
Mr. 21 Fart. Okay, my main argument is that the breeding system in Pokemon as a feature in a competitive video game, that's mainly what I'm talking about here, is competitive Pokemon. And I realize that's not all of it. I don't even play that much of it. But the people like the people that are breeding for IVs are competitive Pokemon players almost always, right?
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Or they're just collecting Pokemon
Yeah.
with perfect IVs just for the fun of it, of being able to say that I have these Pokemon with perfect IVs. But
guess.
the vast majority of people that would be doing that are doing that to build teams.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is that as a feature in a competitive video game, the IV breeding system is just completely overcomplicated and pretty much worthless as a feature in a video game. And I don't think that it is morally wrong to use, for competitive purposes, to use like PokeSav, PokeGym, what have you. Not the iPod ones that you have to pay money for, because that's actually illegal. But
Way robbery right there.
But I just think that if you're going to do them for competitive battles, you shouldn't have to spend hours upon hours on your Pokemon to bring to battles just so pretty much the playing field can be level, because everyone else already has put in the hours. So for new players, you're looking at a big old stack of work. In addition to learning how everything works, you have to actually do the work and breed the Pokemon. And my main argument here is like, StarCraft players don't have to individually like breed or like train up each of their units.
Hatch Zerglings.
Hatch. Yeah, I guess you do have to hatch. You have to bring them in the hatchery, but it's a little bit different process.
Right.
But yeah, like any competitive video game just doesn't have this. And if Pokemon is to be taken seriously as a competitive video game, you need to have the tools simply put in game to be competitive. That's my 2 cents on it. So if I were to be entering a bunch of tournaments and I knew that I could do it without getting disqualified, I probably would, instead of taking the hours upon hours to breed my Pokemon out, I would just use PokeSap or PokeGym, because to me, the game is the battle. The game is not the breeding part of it. That's what the competitive game is the battle, and it in no way affects the battling side of it if you use PokeGen Pokemon within legal parameters. I'm not talking like get like a Venusaur with whatever Psycho Boost or whatever. I'm strictly talking about using Pokemon just as a time saver, because I think that the breeding system is a waste of time, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm going to have like a half opinion here, because I don't really have a moral objection to anybody doing PokeSav or whatever. I just also really enjoy the breeding process. I think that's like you said, it's super complex, and I think that's what's really awesome about a lot of stuff in Pokemon, that it's crazy complex. It's like really, and it gives, the fact that there are IVs gives like 4 billion configurations to every Pokemon, if you include like gender and every different combination of that, and every combination of like EVs stacks onto that. So it initially makes it, I mean, it's a game for kids for foremost, and then so it feels like every Pokemon really is its own like special little snowflake, and I think that's why they had it in the first place.
Yeah, that is why, to simulate some kind of like biological randomness mutation kind of deal. Yeah, but now
and then,
when you take it to the point, but when you take it to the point where we are now, where everyone is just breeding and only using the super IV Pokemon, and realistically, how many different combinations of IVs do you see in a competitive team? Not millions.
There's one.
Yeah,
for each guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I totally concede that point. Like I was saying earlier, and that might have gotten cut off when Travis jumped in. You had a girl on a while back that was a special guest, and she made a really good analogy that it was as if you had to play chess with pieces that you personally carved. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's exactly what it is, that you're taking a long time to carve out these little guys, and then you can play the game after you get done with that. I just happen to enjoy carving.
I love that. Yeah. And I don't think that they should take out. Steve and Travis, do you want to talk before we get into like fixes for the system? Do you guys want to?
Sure. And before I like go into like refuting claim, I'll just like state my opinion just generally. As of last generation, I would have been a little more conflicted because I love because in my eyes, breeding is the only thing that gives a reason to play Pokemon after you're done with the post game. I mean, obviously collecting Pokemon, but for those of us like myself who don't really care that much about completing a Pokedex, breeding is another thing that makes the game worth playing after it's done. There's a lot of hours you can get out of that. There's almost infinite hours by playing that. That's a plus just on its own, the additional playtime. And I have always loved this idea of building a team like from the ground up. You know, you've put work into this, as Logan was saying with this analogy about the chess pieces. But I also see David's point where it's obviously very limiting as a competitive game, given that you have to do all this work just to play, and it's sort of a barrier to entry. That's what I would have said in Generation 5. I'll grant that it's overcomplicated still, but the Destiny Knot and I guess EVs don't really come into this, but you know the changes they made to EVs in terms of like hordes and stuff. But the amount of time it takes to breed a competitive Pokemon has dropped considerably because of the Destiny Knot. So where it might have taken hours and hours, it'll probably take like an hour per Pokemon. So if you want to make a team for VGC, for breeding, that's 6 hours of work, which is 6 hours, sure.
Yeah.
But the amount of time people spend like
I think that's a pretty conservative
through
estimate.
Yeah, I understand that too, and I have bred my first couple of IV bred Pokemon. I'm getting used to the thing, but the thing is, it does take a lot of time. I wouldn't say that for someone getting into the game, it would not take an hour, or getting into the breeding aspect of the game. It does not, because for me, my Lillipup, it took me a very long time, and it also kind of just depends on what materials you have. And the thing is, as you get more into breeding,
I guess I'm assuming you already have like a Ditto with 6 IVs and that sort of thing, which you're not going to have.
I don't even have one of those. Yeah,
I don't either. Mm-hmm. But if you do, then it's quick. I would say, you know, like if there was some way in the, I would be fine with, you know, saying like if there's some way in the game where you do some challenge that gets you like a 6 IV Ditto, that would make sense to me. But at the point where we're saying that it takes, I don't know. I don't think it takes as much work as it used to, nearly at all. And so I don't really see it as being this huge detriment, because I think the positives of it vastly outweigh the negatives, given that there's people who, like, that's their whole thing, is they breed Pokemon and they go on Twitter and they trade. That's a thing that people do and love to do. And so I don't think that to some people it's a little annoying. But for the people who love it, they really love it. And I think if you made it so that you could just instantly bump up your Pokemon, like when you went into battle, just like instantly bump them up to like a competitive IV level, then it would sort of devalue the efforts of those people who like to do it. So
this is where I cut in, not to cut you off, but that's where I actually disagree, because there is still free battle.
You mean just like not competitive play?
Yeah, there would still be ways in our perfect world where you can battle without getting boosted to 31
so
IVs.
your levels wouldn't get boosted and your IVs wouldn't get boosted.
Why? But like, I don't know. I feel like that cheapens the whole system and takes a lot of the fun out of it. Like, okay,
we don't have to limit ourselves to things that are already in the game. We could just suggest that maybe for the breeding program. Okay. As for, I understand that people like it, and I don't think that it should be taken out of the game in its entirety at all. I think that the things, if people are having fun doing that, it can stay in the game, but I don't think that it should be necessarily required for battles. That can be pushed. Maybe that's how you get shinies. Maybe if you get 6 IV Pokemon, it's shiny or something like that, or it's slightly discolored. I don't know. That's something that maybe they could do to fix it. I don't know.
So, like, your main complaint is that it's going to take about like 20 hours or something to get ready, and maybe like after that initial 20 hours, it's probably 1 to 3 hours per guy. But like, I mean, you have to beat the Elite Four to do anything, and that's not. I mean, you're not complaining about that. So
yeah, also, it's the type. It's not just the work that you have to put in. It's the type of work. It's like what. It's not a good thing for me. I understand that people enjoy it, to each their own, but I don't think that riding your bicycle back and forth across giant roads is the most graceful way that you can implement a breeding system. They could, in their infinite wisdom, they could just make something fun and put in a mini game or put something like mega training or super training.
I'd be fine with that. It's just, I understand this whole thing about, like, making it optional to have the battles boost them, but like, honestly, I mean, I wouldn't say I enjoy it as much as some people enjoy breeding, but like, sure, they like enjoy breeding, but I think what they enjoy isn't necessarily. I think a lot of people don't enjoy necessarily just the act of it, but being able to say, I have this competitive team because I did that. And it's not like the actual act itself is what's enjoyed, but the fact that there's this sense of accomplishment that if you make it so that you can just boost the Pokemon to perfect IVs when you want to play competitively, that you're taking out the thing that would be the thing that people love about it, is what you're taking out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could make it something where it still takes like a lot of work in a different area of the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It could be Battle Tower prizes or something that or like alter the Pokemon's DNA to give it +1 IV or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be fine with that.
I think my issue kind of comes twofold, whereas going back to transferring everything into my Pokemon Bank which was like one of my wish lists of Pokemon, was to have a online server for me to save all my Pokemon. And to see all these Pokemon come into it that aren't perfect IVs, that will never get any work done to them, will probably that are just useless. It's frustrating because I have a Golduck and I have a Gengar and I have all these Pokemon that I love because I took that normal journey with them from start to finish throughout the game. And they're named, and like I can remember the battles I've won with them. I can remember when I caught them. And those Pokemon are technically untouchable. They're useless. I can't adjust their IVs. Now with Gen 6, I can affect their EVs because it lets you reset their EVs. But
well, I mean, I wouldn't say they're useless. They're still, like I have a dog, and he's not going to win any dog shows. But that's not why I value him.
Yeah, I understand your point, but like I agree with Steve definitely that that's an actually really good point, Steve. Is that it would be awesome if you could use your Pokemon that you went through the game in competitive battles. I just think that breeding and eugenics or whatever should be divorced from competitive. I don't think that should be the thing that affects competitive play all encompassingly. I think
the other root to the problem is that because IVs exist and because they don't have an easy entry to barrier, or they don't have an easy barrier to entry. There will always be RNG. There will always be Pokesalve. There will always be ways to get around that easier to get hacked Pokemon into the game.
But they're significantly devalued at the point where it takes a lot less time to do it than it does before. I realize it's still significantly quicker, but we can tell that the direction that Game Freak is going is making breeding easier. That's all they've done every single generation. So like the direction they're going, it's getting easier and easier, and I'm always for making it an easier process.
Mm-hmm. And I would not be surprised at all if next generation or even next game they had something exactly like we're talking about, where you can boost IVs through, or at least affect IVs in some way, like they did with super training.
Yeah,
I think we're definitely moving in that direction. I don't think it'll be like this for long.
I don't think any of us here want IVs to go away. I mean,
Right.
my solution to IVs was what David agrees with me is when you go into a competitive battle, when they boost you to 50, they boost your IVs to, what they need to be. I know I get the flaw of that is like if you wanted a 0 in a Snorlax, that obviously doesn't work. But
or hidden power is another
right, but
place where that's weird.
at
Yeah, but
same-
the thing is, it won't really matter because everyone will have those. All Snorlaxes will have a 31 in IVs, or a 31 in speed, so realistically it won't affect.
Well, hidden power definitely. it
Oh,
would,
yes,
'cause-
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they could
do
just
something
change
like that.
how hidden
Yeah,
power
do something
works.
like that. Well,
Yeah,
no, it would.
the hidden power is the worst. I really
That's
dislike
true.
the hidden power is based on IVs. It's obnoxious.
Honestly, that could be fixed in a lot of ways too. You could just there could just be a guy who you go
Yeah,
talk
that
to.
you
and,
go to that.
What do you want his hidden power to be?
Yeah.
That would be my fix for this with the things in game that we have now. That would be like if they could patch X and Y, that's what I would want them to do. But I think that it would be a lot better because it can still take work to train up your Pokemon because I make the StarCraft comparison, but it isn't exactly like StarCraft. It is an RPG. The Pokemon are Pokemon that you catch in the wild. And I would be okay with you having to go through some kind of getting ready for battle, like gearing up in WoW is what I can compare it to. I would be okay with having super training for IVs, but I don't think that riding your bike back and forth across whatever Sillage Town or whatever, not Sillage.
What would you all think of? Because instead of, I'm trying to think of some sort of, because I understand the problem that probably needs to be fixed, and that it's just tedious for those who don't want to do the breeding. But I obviously, I don't know. I'm more sympathize with the people that do enjoy it. So what about a type of game mode where all of your Pokemon's IVs are dropped to 0, and then you have a limited, before the battle starts, you can apply a limited supply of IVs to boost certain ones in certain ways before the game starts. You have to apply them strategically before the battle starts, and then you go in. That way, you still have the normal mode, which I don't know, you could call the breeding mode or whatever, where you're rewarded for all that time. In that all of your Pokemon end up being perfect, whereas the time that does the mode that doesn't require as much preparation is more of it's an added strategy element where you pick and choose where you think those IVs should be placed based on your team.
But for me, that only would help it if that was the mode they used for all competitive battling, because that's where I get off. Is that
well? I mean, if you went to VGC and you could sign up for either.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, right now, or at least coming soon, that they're going to have, in the TCG, they're going to have your current format, which is X and Y and Plasma.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have a legacy format, which is going to be from the very start of Black and White on. And there's no reason why the video games can't have, well, first off, the video games are crippled in the fact that it's only double battles. And I would say a lot of Pokemon trainers love single battles. And
Yeah, I mean, it is the main game.
that is the main game. Single battles see 0 competitive when it's an official tournament, besides your online unofficial stuff. But for somebody who is wanting to get into competitive battles, they haven't bred anything, they're attached to all these Pokemon, which, like I've made the argument for, have a mode where, okay, the standard video game championship battle is everything gets rounded up to 50, all your IVs get rounded up, any Pokemon you've used, they all work. The only thing that you need to focus on is your EVs beforehand, which is very doable now in Gen 6. And then have a different kind of battle tournament set up for single battles. IVs matter. There is no limits here. The only thing that we'll probably do is, round up your level to 50.
Yeah, well, I think with especially with how many people are playing, I don't think splitting up the formats into even smaller and smaller tournaments. I don't know what the turnout for VGC events is. I assume it's not gargantuan. I assume there's not a ton of people playing.
The problem is VGC tournaments are only at state or higher level.
Yeah.
Right. and I don't even know if they're at state. They might be at
It's regional.
regionals.
Yeah,
regionals
regional.
or higher.
Yeah.
So that's the main problem right there.
Yeah. And I am not in my perfect world, I would not want them to just add new features. I think that like diluting or add new what's it called?
Game modes or something.
Game modes or formats is what I was trying to say. Formats is just diluting the player base. I still want it to be one competitive scene.
Yeah.
I just don't want biking side to side.
Well, sure, but
that's my main.
But are you really diluting the field by doing that? Obviously, if they added that, you would be more inclined to do that, right?
To do what?
So
to do
if they add some other game mode where you can, like my example of like some sort of like apply a limited set of IVs, you would be more likely to play when now you're not,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
so you're not necessarily diluting because you're adding a whole set of people who were not playing before.
That is true, but we don't know the numbers on that. I don't know the numbers on that. Yeah.
So if all that stuff came to pass, what would your feeling on like breeding for moves then be?
Breeding for moves is okay. I'm more okay with breeding for moves. One, because it's more clear cut and presented. It's not necessarily presented in game, but it's more of a tangible thing that you're doing, other than the judge in Killode City or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's true. He's kind of
he's a little out of the way. Yeah, but go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, I mean the reason we're talking about this is obviously the system's broken, and there's probably people screaming at the show right now saying that I'm wrong and that it's perfect and that breeding shouldn't be adjusted at all. But
even as the most inclined, like the IV apologist in the crowd, I'm definitely willing to admit there's a whole bunch of issues with it, but I haven't heard an idea to change it that hasn't sort of ruined that I don't see would. I'm going to start the sentence over. As much as I really as much as I really defend the system, I see that it's flawed, but I haven't seen a proposal for how to fix it that doesn't also ruin the thing people like so much about it. So I definitely see that there is a problem. I haven't seen a viable solution.
I mean,
I'll come out as a person who actually does enjoy the bike back and forth. So I'm an apologist of the IV system too. That just puts me in my happy place. I'm ready to go to bed afterwards. It's great.
I don't think.
But the thing is, there could be something that you enjoy more. There could be any number of mini games that are more in the system, more forthright, more fun, and it would add new content to Pokemon games. And who doesn't want that?
Definitely.
My perfect world would be maybe have breeding be something. I think breeding, you can put the work in and just have it be something aesthetic. Maybe would be because everyone loves shiny Pokemon. My perfect solution, or my solution, would be to have keep breeding just how it is in place, but have some other kind of thing that isn't completely necessary for competitive battling. Some other reward that isn't completely necessary for competitive battling, like make it part of your trainer card, give you in-game things, because there is a game other than competitive battling, and I think breeding should be more focused on that instead of competitive battling.
Do you guys remember I think it was on Diamond and Pearl, that you could get your trainer card? You could upgrade your trainer card?
You can do that. You can do that in all the games.
Wait, what? Even in X and Y?
Yeah.
Yeah, by the Battle Chateau, right, is the way you do it in this one?
I think there are a bunch of different ways. No, the Pokédex, you get an upgrade, right? For completing Pokédex, you get a higher rank. Or is it all Battle Chateau?
You get the shiny thing if you complete your Pokédex.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm excited now.
I do think there are trainer card ranks in X and Y. And
I think there's something that happens if you finish the Battle Chateau with it. That's what it's called, right? Battle Chateau?
Yeah, you battle the gym leaders too in there. That's a big part. Mm-hmm. Money too, I think you get from the Battle Chateau. I don't know what the deal with the Battle Chateau is.
Well, anyway, the trainer card was a big deal to me in Diamond and Pearl, and I guess it's just become a big deal to me in X and Y now.
Yeah, exactly. And if the people who enjoy breeding, if you guys that enjoy breeding are doing it just for the reward, I put all this hard work in, here's my reward. I think that reward can be something that isn't, I just said this before, but that reward can be something that isn't completely necessary to competitive battling.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think, I don't know, it would have to be something that was like important, though. It couldn't be like, and now my Pokemon is perfect for the Pokemon musicals, which no one likes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's why I suggested maybe they could just add another, this is a little bit radical, but they could just add another type of shiny for that. I think that's the idea that I've had that I've most liked, is maybe if you get a 6 IV Pokemon, it's a different color or something, or it's wearing a scarf, so a Pokemon breeder.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that idea, because I think then people would want to have that. It has to be something someone would really want, and want as much as, it would have to feel like as much of a reward as having a team does now.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
It's definitely obvious that people want shiny Pokemon, because when we were at nationals, it was that, oh, like, you're a competitive battler and you're in the top 16, and oh, every single one of your Pokemon is shiny.
You were in the minority if you did not have a team full of shinies.
Right. Which goes back to my original argument of that the perfect IVs encourages the RNG side of things.
Yeah, definitely.
And
that is something that we haven't really talked about much. You're right, Steve. It definitely does encourage cheating, because if it was easier, I would never cheat. I would never use Pokesav if it was not easier, if it was fun. That's the thing. I don't want to make IV breeding easier. I want to make it fun.
And to me, as like a collector who, like, even though I have all these terrible Pokemon in my Pokemon bank, like one day when I have, 2,000 up to 3,000 Pokemon, and I'm like 40 years old, and hopefully the server still exists and my Pokemon are still there, I can like show my kids, like,
a lot of ifs. I mean, the zombie apocalypse is coming.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
if Pokemon keeps, adding more Pokemon, which it doesn't seem like they're going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's going to be harder and harder to complete a Pokedex, so it will be awesome to like keep holding on to these Pokemon and keep taking them with you to other generations. And that could all easily be ruined if, you have 2 hacked Pokemon in here, because at one point you traded with somebody who hacked because they needed it for competitive play, and now you have it, and it's like, oh, this sucks. At least I would feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
I have Hearthstone on my mind because I've been playing it a lot. How Hearthstone works is so there's no trading of these digital cards, right? So you just get them in packs.
Are you about to talk about turning Pokemon into dust? Is that
disenchanting your Pokemon?
This is literally where I'm going. And the way it works is if you have more copies than you want of a given card, because you only have 2 of them in your deck, you can you essentially destroy the card and turn it into a set of points, which you can then spend at a loss. Essentially, like you would have to disenchant. I think it's like 4 commons to then build the one specific common that you want, or rares, or whatever. And that would work in poker, because if you catch so many Bidoofs or whatever, and they're all, as Steve says, useless, because once you have one, then you're fine. But you have
one with perfect.
Maybe you have all of these, so then you could. There's some way where it's still incentivized breeding,
like
where
a Pokemon grinder, where you throw all the Bidoofs in.
I realize it's sort of against the spirit of the game in that sense, but like if it would take more time to do than breeding, then I'm fine. Like I still want, like, I think you keep the people who like breeding by making the other thing more time consuming, but also easier. So in the sense that like super training is easier to get into than is EV breeding, but it's but it's more time consuming. So like if you had to have a whole bunch of them that you like then combine into one Bidoof that then becomes the one with perfect IVs, then something like that.
You could do like a system like I caught. Well, I'm going to piggyback off what you said, Travis, where like I caught 100 Bidoofs, and I'm going to take them to like the safari rescue place in the game, and they're going to reward me for releasing these Bidoofs into the perfect scenario. This is how the safari zone is formed, baby.
You go to the Team Plaza the headquarters, and they reward you for releasing Pokemon by giving you one with perfect IVs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thus revealing that no Pokemon wants to be caught.
So you get a point value from that, and you can use that point value to buy like a specific potion formula, something that let's say I want a perfect IV Miltank.
Or after you release 50 Bidoofs, you get one Bidoof with the IVs of your choice.
Yes, that could be it.
Yeah, well, when you guys actually brought up the taking you out of the spirit of the game, one thing that I really didn't participate in Pokemon breeding for a very long time because it really does entirely break the spirit. It takes you out of the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
Just breeding hundreds and
releasing
hundreds of
level. Yeah.
And that's I really don't like judging a Pokemon based on its
a valid
genetics.
point.
Yeah, like
Right.
it's
You're right.
like Pokemon
It's eugenics.
eugenics. Yeah, exactly. And I really didn't like doing that. I don't like the idea of that. I take Pokemon very seriously, and I don't like mistreating my Pokemon. And I think it would be definitely more in the spirit of the game to do something like Steve says and have the Pokemon that you went through the game that were your partners as you battled the Pokemon League, have them be able to be competitively viable through some means.
That actually, I mean, I'm totally behind this solution, actually. This is, you could go find your dudes, like you could put them on display in their in a little habitat, and go visit them later. Yeah. It's like Animal Crossing then, which is even better.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter, I believe it was Greg, and mistake me if I'm wrong, but he said to me and made an excellent point and said that just because I breed my Pokemon and you caught your Pokemon and raised them to whatever, are you saying that I'm playing Pokemon wrong? And it was an excellent point because, like, I'm not a breeder, and some people are. And no, you're not playing it wrong. Like, your Pokemon probably still mean a lot to you. That was probably a lot of work you did. But to me, my connection is kind of the root of Pokemon, is catching something in the wild, deciding if I want to keep it, and then take a journey with it, and then form experiences that way. Now, some people may form experiences by just breeding, finally hatching at that moment of actually hatching what you need, and then raising it and battling with that. That's a totally different experience, and that's not an experience that I would want, but that's an experience that some people would want. That's just like saying, like, I like comedy movies, but that doesn't mean I like horror movies. Those are two different experiences, but within the same genre of movies.
Yeah.
So
what do you guys think of maybe involving the gym leaders and the Pokemon League somehow, and having, like, maybe when you beat the Pokemon League with a Pokemon, the Hall of Fame somehow, you can go into the Hall of Fame computer and adjust their IVs there? Something like that?
I'm still going to go with that old standby of as long as it's more time consuming than is breeding. If you make breeding quicker and that, because, and I mean that sincerely, because I think that's the way to do it, because you keep the people who enjoy breeding, you keep rewarding them in the same way that super trading. No one is saying, oh, super training's so annoying because I loved EV training and now it's completely pointless. No one is saying that. I've never seen anyone say that, and that's because super training is more time consuming than is EV training, and I think everyone at this point agrees that what they did by introducing super training made that system a whole bunch better. So I think that's the same solution you need to do if you're doing it that sort of way with IVs.
That's kind of getting away from the point of competitive battling should not take a huge barrier to entry.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree that it should be fun, and you're right. And if it's something fun, it should take longer than breeding. But I do think that should be divorced from competitive battling. Anything that takes longer than breeding should especially be divorced from competitive battling.
It's hard to say that you could just edit IVs, since IVs are technically what a Pokemon is born with, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. You could have said that about, like, effort values, that, oh no, you can only get effort values from wild Pokemon, but that's not how they can change it.
And
they can change that.
And you can even remove those with the berries.
Yeah.
Also, an effort and EVs can, like, it's like, why can my Oshawott only have speed and attack? Like, if he can freaking swim forever, why can't he have special attack too? Like, why are you restricting me to 2 if I keep going to the gym over and over and working on different parts of my Oshawott body?
Never skip leg day.
Oshawott.
But like to be fair and to put it back into a Pokemon world, like, genetic changes and genetic hacking have already appeared. We saw it with Mewtwo. We saw it with Mew. Like, and not to say anime, because anime is not kosher, but it's definitely in the game. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
so it's not like there can't be some kind of system to affect IVs, and I get that IVs are what you're born with, but like there shouldn't be the whole argument, at least from mine and David's side, and why we began talking about this, is the IVs are the barrier to the competitive aspect, which is such a big aspect of Pokemon. And for me to take my team that I went through 40 hours with from start to finish, to take that to a battle, competitive battle, like I automatically lose, no chance.
Right.
And that is heart stomping for especially the younger audience that doesn't understand EVs, that doesn't understand IVs. And they'll never want to do it again. And now you have a younger person who is disappointed in competitive play because they lost, not even closely. And how is that going to encourage them to try to do it? While some may get into breeding so they can correct that problem, others will just be turned off.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I think that it could be something. They would probably have to be a drastic change to really kind of sate all of these desires we've been talking about. But
definitely. Yeah, it's not a small change, and realistically, it probably will happen slowly over time, like EVs kind of did.
A big thing they changed was the moves. Remember when we only had one TM?
Yeah.
If you're only if that's your concern, then why stop at the IVs, right? Then why not have like a Pokemon Stadium type thing, right? Like that's the solution. Is have like one is have it so that one game mode where nothing, like you don't have to catch the Pokemon. You know,
the building of your team is actually it is competitive play
but you would still in this case you would still choose the Pokemon in that sense,
and the
building
moves,
your team
and the moves.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as you're choosing like the moves and the Pokemon and even the EV split.
Yeah.
So
that all is part of the game. But you're not really. The thing is, that's strategy, whereas breeding is not strategy. It's you have to get 5x. Yeah.
So then why not just have like have two separate modes on those for the people who enjoy the satisfaction of building something like EV training, and I'm guessing that the vast majority of people that love breeding also love EV training. So have one set for like I'm using this term in a different way than people normally do. In-game Pokemon. I don't mean like in your original run through, but Pokemon earned in the actual playing of the game, as opposed to some
I mean, basically Pokemon
arcade
Showdown.
mode. Yeah.
It depends which one is the one taken most seriously and done at official tournaments. I think that that competitive Pokemon, quote unquote, what it should be known as, should not be the one that involves breeding.
I don't think that like rental Pokemon in like Pokemon Stadium, for example, like ever made me feel as good as winning as the Pokemon I originally caught.
Yeah.
Well, right, but like, isn't that the point though? That like that's the extreme of that feeling you're getting, Steve, is the feeling that people get when they breed their Pokemon and EV train them. They get a very heightened. They get a more intense feeling of the same thing that you're getting because it's all the work put into it.
Yeah, but
so if it's all about the barrier to entry, then that's the solution.
But we see that in the TCG already. Like you can easily go online, find a good deck list, pay for those cards, and win a tournament. That's not that hard to do. That would be the equivalent of like
small tournaments, not huge tournaments. It does. The TCG does take some skill. I know some very good players with TCG.
Right. I mean, the TCG is a lot of luck, but in a perfect world, you would know this deck wins. These are the cards I need. This is how you play. That would be the equivalent to like renting Pokemon or like what do they call that Pokemon battle thing that you play? Pokemon Showdown.
Yeah,
that would be the equivalent to Showdown. Whereas like people who spend the time to like build their own deck, there's no like making your own cards to do that. It's just you're looking at different possibilities. You're putting them together. You're doing some trial and error. Your trial and error through this in this example would be playing through the game because at least in X and Y, these are the first time you're using these Pokemon. These are the first time you're catching it. So you're experiencing all those battles up to it. And then I would argue, and I don't think anyone would disagree, that winning a TCG match with a deck that you made yourself because you put the time in is way more rewarding than winning with somebody else's deck list that you just pulled.
Yes.
Yeah, and that actually is kind of an argument for IV breeding.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying.
But I don't think that I hate to go back to bicycling back and forth across a long route, but I don't think that the work that it should take to get to your happiness is, and I kind of am changing my stance. I don't think that there should be no barrier to entry. I kind of do, now that you're saying it, I kind of do agree that having rental Pokemon, that extreme of it, that is not where I want to go. I want to go somewhere in the middle, but that middle is not somewhere where I have to ride back and forth on a bicycle.
So, like, what's the minimum amount of bicycle that you're acceptable?
Well, I mean, like, to me,
I mean, I can nature breed. I can nature breed the hell out of some Pokemon, but I don't know. Ivy's
so like a tiny stint on a bike is not unheard of, but you just don't want to do the. I mean, I totally understand that. Like, I was in that same boat before this generation. I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not spending another second on this bike.
Yeah, and I can't do it. I have Ivy bred Pokemon. I understand it, and I have been able to do it. It's just not something I enjoy and not something that I want to do to have a box full of competitively viable Pokemon.
I think the frustrating thing is Pokemon sets it up as you're going to catch these Pokemon, and then you're going to battle these Pokemon.
Exactly. It's not in the spirit of the game.
But in reality, they've introduced this third game, which is breeding.
Mm-hmm.
And they've introduced fourth games, which is like Pokemon and Me, and berries, and musicals. And it's like, for me to do, so I can catch, check, done. I can battle, check, done. But if I want a competitive battle, I have to dip into this third pool of breeding. Like, that would be almost saying, like, okay, now if you want to really make that battle even more worthwhile, you need to dip into this fourth pool of Pokemon musicals. Like, is there going to be a point where they're going to force us down that way as well? Because
I would hope we're only going to go the other way. Like,
yeah,
less and
because
less
really,
and I think we are going to go only the other way.
Because the only solution is to simplify it, and they can leave it alone, and we're all going to have these same issues. Or they can.
Well, I don't think anyone anywhere is opposed to making doing more things like the introduction of the Destiny. Not like if in Gen 7, like there was some other item that made it even easier. I think that anyone against that is in the vast minority. I think
but
people
why
just
not?
want.
Isn't that essentially the same thing as dumbing it down? Like, isn't that taking less? If your argument is that like it makes it better because I put in the work, are Gen 6 bred Pokemon less fun to use, less fulfilling than Gen 5 bred Pokemon or Gen 4 bred Pokemon? I think the answer would have to be yes if you are enjoying the work that you put in, or if you get a better sense of accomplishment from more work that's put in.
I think because there is some work necessary, because then the answer is that, like, well, sure, like the amount of like return on investment per Pokemon is probably lower, but because, you know, if putting in X number of hours in Gen 5 gets me three bred Pokemon, but in Gen 6 gets me half a box of bred Pokemon,
Which it kind of does.
then I'm still getting the same enjoyment out of that half of a box that I did out of the three. It's more about enjoyment per the amount of time spent than for the Pokemon.
Honestly, for me, X and Y is at the exact right amount, but I totally understand like if it's still a little bit much for other people, because like I said, you know, last generation, absolutely not. That's just ridiculous.
Did they remove the like Macho Brace stuff? Do the power items still pass down?
They still do, yes.
Yeah, you could still.
Yeah, they do.
Just like anything they add in Gen 7 or whatever, you will still.
Well,
be
no one is going to want to use that if I don't think it's necessarily like people want to be doing something extremely difficult. It's just that I think there needs to be at least some thing that you can hang your hat. You know, there needs to be some accomplishment.
I think
that's something should be more in the world of Pokemon, more something more Pokemon feeling,
as opposed to like some sort of like adjunct, which it feels like now.
I think David made a good point earlier, as in the work you put in for the reward. I mean, right now it's easier to get IVs in Gen 6.
Yeah.
The assumption is it's going to be even easier to get IVs in Gen 7. And now that Pokebank has linked Gen 6 and up, as a breeder, as somebody who likes to breed, are you going to breed in Gen 6 because it's harder and you want that reward? Or are you going to breed in Gen 7 because it's easier and it's faster and it saves you time? I can't imagine anyone saying, well, it's more rewarding because it's harder to breed in Gen 6, so I'm always going to breed in Gen 6 and move up to Gen 7. No, everyone's going to go the easier route because it saves time.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, it's hard to say, like, breeding's so rewarding in Gen 6, but now that it's in Gen 7 and it's easier, I'm not going to do that, because you are going to do that because it saves you time.
But like I'm saying, it's not
competitive battle.
Yeah, Travis did answer that. It's not. It's more.
You're proud of the you're proud of the time you invested. You're not proud as necessarily as proud of the outcome. You're proud that I worked to get this result, regardless of like how substantial the result is. Like 1 hour in Gen 6 has less of a you're less. It has less of an outcome, but you're still as proud of 1 hour's work in Gen 6 as you are of 1 hour's work in Gen 7. There's just more of an outcome of it.
I guess like the point I'm making is like IV breeding should get shorter in the future, we all hope.
Yeah.
And like so like why is it okay right now for it to take so long, even though it doesn't take as long as Gen 5, but it's like it still takes long. It's still a barrier of entry. EV breeding,
I don't think anyone's arguing that it's perfect. I mean, I'm totally down.
EV breeding, well, we have super training, but we also have horde battles, and if it wasn't for horde battles, like, it would take a lot longer to EV breed. But no one's complaining about that anymore because that solution has been fixed with both horde battles and super training.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's is saying that Gen 6 is perfect in terms of breeding. Like I said, I think everyone would be fine with it getting easier.
I guess I'm just like trying to understand why people who breed are okay with it taking that long. And
well, like I was saying, I wasn't okay with it last gen, and I am this one, and I don't know what like threshold the time investment is where it's enjoyable and not enjoyable. But for me, it's gotten there, and in future generations, it'll probably get shorter, and it'll have more folks become interested in it.
I think that the super training solution was the perfect solution to EV training, and I think something similar to that, something in game, something that feels more like Pokemon. Not that super training necessarily feels a lot like Pokemon. It's a little bit weird.
It's super training is kind of close to the anime. Like if there's like one episode where like Ash takes Oshawott to like a training salon to like increase his speed. So
yeah, but I'm talking specifically more about the balloon fighting, like shooting soccer balls of balloons. That's a little bit weird. I would hope it to be something a little more Pokemon feeling, but something that is like that maybe Travis is right. I am changing my stance, as I said earlier. Something that takes a little longer, but something that isn't riding your bicycle back and forth.
I'm totally with that. Yeah.
That's what we got.
Well, now that we've solved the world's problems.
I'm sure there's going to be people that are angry that I didn't make a hard line stance, but honestly, like that's like I'm not like an extremist in that sense. Like I like the system because I and others get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But I'm willing to admit that it does, maybe it does take a little bit too much work. But I think that's the amount of the barrier to entry problem is smaller than is the massive amount of enjoyment people get out of it. So I think that the solution of making it so that all the tournaments, all competitive tournaments, have the one format where it's your EVs are automatically boosted or automatically adjustable, takes a lot of the reward out of the breeding, which people enjoy so much. So
what if, and not to drag this topic on for much longer, but
I mean, I think people want to hear it.
Well, you look at something like Poke Showdown, right?
Yeah,
You play that a lot.
I do like Pokemon Showdown.
And what you do is
good.
you use your creativity. You make a team, give it the moves, probably give them all perfect IVs,
Yep.
and you play. And you play over and over. You're battling all the time.
Yeah.
Easy. What if that was actually in Pokemon? Like,
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of the rental. That's what he's been.
right. But then when you go to a competitive battle, you can't use those anymore.
Sure.
As for like testing, like for testing purposes,
Like-
that is what I use a lot of my Pokemon Showdown for, is to test out builds before you put the 6
too.
hours into them. Yeah.
Well,
Be
like,
perfect. I love it.
The problem is we're going to a website to do that. We're going to a website to play
Yeah.
Pokemon, and we're not actually playing the game, which is frustrating.
Yeah, and they could make it. They could easily do it in game as some kind of like cyber thing or some kind of like battle factory
Simulation.
Yeah, simulation.
I would be
That's not
phenomenally
I'm not
happy
changing
for
my
that to be
stance on
included.
IVs being overcomplicated because that still needs to be fixed. But I don't get why I have to go to a website to test out Pokemon.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Oh man, the in-game 3D printer that makes your digital Pokemon that you've just tested out real. And that takes battle tower points.
I would be curious for all the hardcore Pokemon breeders we have, how they dedicate their other time. I mean, for me, and I'm just speaking for myself, I work 40 hours a week. I have my house chores that I do. I try to play other video games besides Pokemon. I don't play a lot of Pokemon anymore, just because I try to fit in other games or I try to do other things in my life. I would be curious for people who are hardcore breeders and battlers, how much, like, if they're college students, if they live at home, if they're parents, if they're not, if they
if you
play
spent-
anything else.
If you spent like an hour a week, just like 1 hour a week breeding, then I would guess that, you'd be able to have a team before. Excuse me, you'd have a team set before regionals, and then you'd have a team set before nationals. You know what I mean?
But that's
Yeah.
just the
Well, I mean-
breeding aspect. That's not the battling aspect.
For me, I've got a full-time job. I just at lunch I was trying to de-stress, so I would just play Pokemon and then maybe an hour or two a night. And I've been doing that since X and Y came out. But not like every lunch break, but a lot of them.
You don't want to lose your job. Don't admit something you don't want.
Oh no, I mean my lunch is mine to do with whatever I want. So, but I've got a box, like an entire box, so 40 completely trained EV'd, perfect IV guys. So it wasn't a crazy time investment, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, so it wasn't tedious for me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But do you play a lot of other games? Or is Pokemon your main jam?
Pokemon is my main jam, but I've been doing a lot of Hearthstone recently, and I have all the diamond trophies in Disco Zoo, and other assorted things. So it's not the only game that I play, but it is my main jam.
Okay, because I wouldn't say Pokemon. Weird as a Pokemon host, I wouldn't say Pokemon's my main jam because I try to get to everything.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I like games and I like competitive games. I just don't have the time investment to put into setting up for competitive for Pokemon. Like for the card game, I just spend $200 and I'm good to go.
Yeah. It's actually gone to the point where I wanted some more friends. Like I only have like one friend who's like actively as into the battling as I am. So since I've got 40 dudes, because I've experimented so much with the different team structures, I just sent out the missive on Twitter, like, if anybody wants to go to the Georgia Regional, I will supply you with a team and it will be great.
What if
so that's done something for other folks that didn't necessarily want to breed, but it dropped the barrier of entry for them.
Yeah, but in a perfect world, the barrier of entry wouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Right. What if Pokemon introduced like in-game currency to like for like World of Warcraft, if I wanted a bunch of money, bunch of gold, I just pay some farmer in Korea.
Yeah.
And-
If you want to be a very bad person that breaks the game's economy and
Regardless,
does the-
I mean, like,
yeah.
there are more issues with
Right.
that. Like, basically,
Yeah.
like
The only
in-
reason I'm
in
paying-
prisons, they make people play World of Warcraft so they can be a gold farm. Like,
Right, but the only reason people pay for gold in World of Warcraft is so they can actually enjoy the game. Some people enjoy the grind. Other people want to use that gold to
Yeah.
buy a bunch of stuff and then play the game they want to play. So,
Yep.
what if in Pokemon I could spend $5 and say I want I want a fully Ivy bred Piplup,
mhm.
and it was $5 and it would take like a week to do. It wouldn't actually be a person in Korea; it would just be the game.
I think
Like
there's a Reddit for
microtransactions?
that.
You think there's a Reddit
Well,
for that?
that's
I think there actually is a Reddit where there's people who just are professional breeders and they'll make whatever one you
See,
want.
that's
for like
sweet.
$5.
In response to this idea of like a currency to spend to get bred Pokemon, there's already that because that's what trading is, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you trade a Pokemon for one you want. You spend like in the same way you would spend time to get this gold. You spend time to breed something that someone wants, and then you trade it for the thing you. It's just 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Like it's like you would like if. Whoops! I just dropped a loud thing.
Like
If you if that's the solution, it has the same problem.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's not a fix. I'm just saying what if they introduced it. I mean, there are listeners of the show that have given me Pokemon that they've spent time on, and I've in return given them like merchandise or something out of the store. But I don't know where I was going with that. But to go to like a subreddit and pay somebody like $10 to breed me a team, like there's no trust there. And that's a flaw in Pokemon for not actually having good balance checks of like, what am I actually getting in return?
Yeah, as
That's
long
true.
as that's kept not in game. Like, I'm okay with paying people to breed your Pokemon. That's actually a really cool idea that I didn't know that they did. But I don't think that it should be in game.
Oh no, it should be
for
in
that
game.
kind of thing.
For
yeah.
Diablo 3 proves that doesn't work.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would absolutely pay. Like if I was to get back into seriously competitive Pokemon, I would just pay somebody. Like to me, the time investment is not worth the cost. And I think that's where a lot of TCG players differ from video game players is that there is zero barrier to entry. The only barrier is your cost.
And that's
And,
essentially the
but
same thing.
there's a lot of people. Like I think there's more people that don't play the TCG because it costs money than there are people who don't play the video game because it costs time.
Yeah, but you don't even have to buy the video game to play it. You just go to Pokemon Showdown.
I guess I don't see what your point is. Like what do you mean? I don't mean that in like a derogatory way. I just like I legitimately don't understand something.
Like if
I'm just a
there are so many like, and I guess because I've gone to like TCG matches, like almost I would say I'm throwing a rough number out of here. I would say 4 out of the 7 matches people I meet, they always go, "This is a friend's deck."
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, definitely.
And so it's like anyone. So like in this group of 4 of us, like Travis, Travis and Logan put the most time in for breeding and competitive battling, and I could just easily borrow Pokemon for you, or I could just go to Pokemon Showdown and do it myself. But that doesn't. That I still have a barrier to competitive battle unless you give me those Pokemon.
right.
And the barrier, at least for the TCG, is the cost. But people just get around that by borrowing decks, because if you're already paying X amount of dollars for cards, you probably have a lot of cards and you probably have multiple decks. And so,
I mean, in the same way, if you're willing to spend, that's the same way with people who have boxes upon boxes of competitive Pokemon. People love trading them to people, so it's still the same situation.
yeah, well, trading doesn't really exist in the TCG.
I'm
even though
talking
it's a
about
trading card game.
in Pokemon, like in the video game, like the people who love breeding, a lot of them will have extras.
Oh,
and
yeah,
things
yeah,
they want to give
absolutely.
away in the same way that this is my friend's deck. Like, oh, my friend bred my team. Like,
Yeah.
get the same thing.
I'm a huge exception to this. I have a personal problem with the Pokemon not saying it's owned to me. But that's just my problem.
Me too. I don't. People offer me things, and I rarely accept them.
Like,
Because that's where I get all my competitive Pokemon is from Wonder Trade. To be honest,
Well,
they're
like-
all my almost competitive Pokemon.
Like, if I was to go, like, when I went in a competitive match, all my Pokemon were from other trainers, and that was fine because I was only using them for nationals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Exactly.
like, I wouldn't really, like, use them again unless it was purely competitive. And then I guess in that point, I don't care because I'm just playing the actual game of the battle, which is what we started talking about.
Yeah.
And now we went full circle.
Yay!
I'm gonna fall asleep. It's late. I woke up early.
Whew, long talk.
That was a very long
Yeah.
talk.
So solution is
A good one though, a great one.
So,
Yeah.
the solution
Solu-
is we're all not happy with Ivies.
Solution is we're switching to World of Warcraft.
The solution is wait, is there a prison that really makes you play World of Warcraft all day?
There are.
How do I go to that prison? What do I need to do?
Do
That
they
seems like a
supply
win-win.
food?
You can do-
I feel
seems
like,
like a win-win.
you're committing to this before you get all the facts.
Yeah, you're gonna get a phone call, and it's gonna. Yeah. it's
So
gonna
I
go
get
down.
to rob a bank or whatnot, and then get to play World of Warcraft all day.
and get
both of those
one
things.
one very small meal a day.
Ah, okay.
Sounds like
I mean,
college.
That's the catch.
I can. Yeah. That's pretty much what I do now. Is play War.
Play World of Warcraft, eat one meal a day, rob a store. That's my everyday kind of thing.
World of Warcraft is actually like that's a pretty good parallel because it was initially a really long grind to like whatever the first max level 50 or whatever, and then now they've got you join and you get a 90, you get a level 90 character.
The thing is, being level capped in WoW, I know this very recently. Being level capped in WoW is not anywhere near to being the best you can be. You are still very crappy if you're just some random schmo level 90 in WoW.
So are
fair.
we saying Pokemon
You
should
gotta
be a
get
lot
geared
more
up.
like WoW?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
They need night elves and trolls and Pokemon. is what I'm
I'm
saying.
pretty sure there's got to be something relatively similar to a night elf.
Gothorita, yeah.
Meowth.
Close enough. He could be a night saber.
Bidoof.
I don't know.
That's exactly good.
All right. So I think that's what we have on Ivies. We could probably continue talking about it, but of course, there is no solution that we can influence, only the solution that Pokemon can give us, which we'll probably
Solution
see.
in your heart.
One more thing on the WoW thing. They do have Pokemon in WoW now. Have you guys heard about that? The pet battles?
yeah, the little
in WoW?
pets.
Yeah. There
Pet
is Pokemon in WoW. I don't see why it can't be the other way around.
That's right. That's right.
Just kidding. Sorry, I just couldn't have gone through a WoW plus Pokemon conversation.
World of
that much.
Johto.
World of Johto. So, final solution is Ivies will be fixed in the
Can we
Ruby and
not
Sapphire
use the term
remix.
the
Yeah, let's
final
not do
solution?
that. We've used
Yeah,
we've used
we're already talking about
eugenics too many
eugenics.
times.
Yeah.
Semi-final solution.
Welcome to It's Super Anti-Semitic.
All right.
So we put all the Bidoofs on train cars, and we take them.
The longer they stay on the train, the better the Ivies get.
Yeah, there we go.
All the ones that don't have perfect, other stuff happens to them involving.
If they
Okay.
fall off the train,
they
it's
get
just
quote-unquote
natural
released.
selection.
Yeah, they're released.
Ta-da.
Which is pleasant, right?
It's like the giver, the released. What if that's what it was? Have you ever released? That's actually eerie. I've never thought about that.
You never see him again.
Release, the ceremony of release.
You can find me at twitter.com.
That Travis getting cut off.
Can we talk about why don't release Pokemon actually go back into the wild?
That would be. I thought they did for when I was a kid for a long time.
Yeah.
But
You
that
go
is not
catch
the
your
case.
buddies. But yeah.
But then there would be
The issue-
100 lily pups.
Yeah,
in
the
the-
issue with that is Ivy breeding ruins it by dumping 300 Charmanders into the wild because you haven't gotten your black Charizard yet. All right, we will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do our Pokemon of the week.
Wait, this show's not over yet?
It's so late.
And we are back from our break to bring you some Pokemon of the week. And this week's Pokemon of the week is Porygon Z, which is a normal type Pokemon that evolves from Porygon 2 when it's traded holding a dubious disc. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Dubious disc. Where should we begin with this genderless Pokemon with a catch rate of 3.9%?
Well, the dubious disc, Porygon Z is kind of based on like corrupted software almost,
Right.
is what I want to say is based on, because
So it
dubious
comes back
means
to Netrunner.
yeah,
Full circle.
first circle. If you remember that from like 3 hours ago into this podcast,
I don't.
yeah, you'll have to
Travis was
listen,
like,
Travis.
what?
Yeah, Travis, we talked about Netrunner for about 80 minutes.
Travis, it was
Can
super
we get
funny
another
that you
take
brought
of
up.
that? Can you give me another take of that? Just say it again, and I'll just laugh like I was there, and then we can put it together in post.
What was super funny is when you brought up Hearthstone, because it was like, oh god, another trading card game we're talking about.
And all the
Okay.
reasons we don't like the regular Pokemon TCG.
But
Like
yeah, it's
Pokemon. Oh,
all right. Back to Porygon
Back to being
Z.
dubious.
Well, dubious means of. I think it means like of uncertain origin. Is that about an approximate definition of it? Like, so it didn't come from Southco or Silphco, which I assume is who made the upgrade, right? Is that what it says?
I believe so.
Yeah, the upgrade is made by Silphco. The dubious disc, however, is not, and apparently it was made to allow Porygon to enter different dimensions, which is something that I didn't know was a thing in Pokemon.
The
But
dimension
the
where
definition
the
of dubious is not to be relied upon. Suspect.
there you go. And
the
Porygon Z
dimension
is,
where IVs don't exist.
yeah. It says that its programming was modified to enable it to travel through alien dimensions. Seems there might have been an error. That's a weird, almost incomplete sentence in a Pokédex entry. But yeah, Porygon Z is pretty much just glitchy, is what it looks like, and I love that about him. I think that's a really cool idea for a Porygon.
He's like, what's the ghost dark?
Rotom?
What's his name? Sableye.
Sableye.
Oh,
Sableye does the same sort of motions in his.
Yeah, Sableye. Sableye is depicted differently. He's based on like alien sighting. Sableye is and I think it says that his feet are always shuffling, which it doesn't do in all the games. I don't know if it does in X and Y, but in one of the original games, like he holds his top half. I'm mimicking this so you guys can see me here. He, like,
this is a video
arms out straight.
podcast after all.
But yeah,
everyone look closely at David's feet.
Yep.
he holds his arms out straight in front of him like he does, and then his like feet are like shuffling on the ground. That's how it's supposed to be. I don't know.
He's sort
That's
of
it.
like, I don't know, he phases in and out, and it's like he's sliding around. He looks really cool.
But I do wish Porygon Z was more glitchy seeming. I feel like in Battle Evolution, he like was more sporadic with his movements. Like I almost wish that he was like teleporting around and like moving his head at impossible speeds. You know what I mean?
Sort of like in keeping with his niche competitively, with sort of being like a nuisance.
Yeah, he's kind of his niche competitively is kind of like a bad special sweeper. I would say Porygon Z is right. Is that?
Oh, you mean Porygon Z? I thought we were still talking about Sableye.
Oh, yeah. Dude, you and your Poke Rage quits.
How much like weight does a trivia fact have to be in Bulbapedia's trivia section?
I don't know.
Because
It
this one,
changes all the time.
this one is Porygon Z weighs exactly as much as Dawn. It shares this similarity with Weavile.
Yeah, well, that's
Let's
that's
do
kind of
a raise of hands to count the number of people who care at all about this. Shh, I think I hear something. I think
That's good, actually. That's pretty good.
That was-
Good
yeah, I was-
Cricket's
I was
hot impression there.
convinced.
But that's it says that, I'm assuming, because in that gen they had where you look at the weight in the Pokédex, the weight comparison, and it has
like
a
the
little
scale.
Yeah, the scale, and like if you put Groudon on there, they fly up into the air and,
Yeah.
and like come down.
Okay, I see.
So like when you put Weavile or Porygon Z on there, if you're playing as Dawn, it's balanced out in the middle. So that's probably why it's in there.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Porygon Z has the highest special attack base stat of all normal Pokemon.
All right, that's saying something, I guess.
That's pretty
What other
cool.
normal type special attackers are there?
Porygon
me.
Z is the only Pokemon whose Japanese name is spelled with a character from a foreign alphabet.
And that would be Z.
Yeah.
And it also has
Is
punctuation in its American name, the dash. It's spelled Porygon-Z,
Yeah.
where I think Farfetch'd
does
might
the,
be the only, or Ho-Oh and Farfetch'd might be the only one.
Oh, because Farfetch has the apostrophe
Apostrophe.
Yeah, and Ho-Oh has the...
dash.
Dash.
Does the special attack thing, does that include Pyroar? He's fire normal, right? Is that
Yeah, that does include that.
so? He's even higher than
I'm
that.
pretty sure.
Because
Yeah, I mean, Porygon Z special attack is 135, and I don't think there's any way that Pyroar is higher than that.
all right,
I don't
I just
think
noticed that people-
Pyroar's that good.
Yeah, come on, Logan. You think you can jump on this show? This is my show.
Wait,
I'm just getting, my new thing is that I'm going to be defensive every episode. Last time it was yelling about the other person named Travis. This time I feel like I'm threatened by Logan. Next time I don't know. We'll see.
Porygon
Stay
Z
tuned.
weighs 75 pounds. That's how much Dawn weighs?
Yeah, she's a little bit younger, I guess. I don't know what is a healthy age or a healthy age to have.
Let's talk about
Be
Dawn's
75 pounds.
eating problem here for a second.
Let's talk about 10-year-olds.
They're not all 10 years old. Definitely not all 10 years old. That's a construct of the anime. And the anime is not canon, as we say time and again, as I say time and again, I guess.
Unless it's the Darkrai movie. Then it is completely,
It's dark.
then it's completely accurate. Ah,
Darkrai movie is video game canon.
But speaking of things that are no longer good speaking of things that are no longer good enough to be in Porygon Z's trivia segment, a long time ago I read there that he can be seen as something maybe not inspired by this, but at least it's a weird coincidence. But the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in the novel Mostly Harmless, which is the fourth or fifth, some Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book, the fifth book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy, which is a weird sentence. The guide, they encounter a guide from a different dimension, or they encounter a guide. The guide in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is not just a book. And in this one, it has been edited to work in multiple different dimensions, because in Mostly Harmless, I guess that's what's happening is interdimensional stuff. But it is shaped like a bird, or somehow looks like a bird, and also acts strangely and is like the antagonist of the book. So that's kind of a little bit similar to Porygon Z. That was interesting to me. I don't know if it'll be interesting to anybody else.
I know that from now on, whenever I think about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I will picture Porygon Z.
Absolutely. There you go. You can name him Marvin, because that's the only thing I know about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is the sad robot.
I think the only thing interesting was left on Bulbapedia here is Porygon Z is a combination of Polygon and Z. It also reflects the stereotype that Japanese people pronounce their L sounds as R sounds.
And I don't know if that's a stereotype so much as it is like fact. Like in katakana, there are no L sounds. There
Right.
are R
It's just
sounds.
the
So if you wanted to,
approximation.
yeah.
So Porygon being a mispronunciation of Polygon, Z may refer to the Z-axis in 3D coordinate systems, or that Porygon Z is the last evolutionary line, since the letter Z is the last in the Latin alphabet. Alternatively, Z may be a corruption of 2, as in Porygon 2.
I really like that. I've never thought about that, actually. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like that one. That's
So-
canon.
And what do you guys think of maybe the Porygon line? What if it was actually supposed to be pronounced Porygon? Does that make any sense? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
oh,
I see
wait,
what you're
yeah.
saying.
it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
Porygon.
But I don't think that's how it actually. I think that's been disproven this far. But I think that's just an interesting thing to think about.
Let's watch that anime episode that
Gave people seizures.
that hurt
Well,
people. Yeah,
I know anime
out.
is not kosher, but the pronunciations in the anime are correct.
Yeah, usually. I can't. I'm sure there's been one that's incorrect.
The sizes are not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes Nidoking will be small, and sometimes Nidoking will be big, and I kind of love it.
Remember the Dragonite was as big as the lighthouse?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that might be. Was that? I've never seen that episode, but was that like a special Dragonite or something?
I think it was like a ghost or an illusion.
Okay.
Regardless, there's especially there's a whole. I think there's a whole Bulbapedia article about the size discrepancy of Nidoking specifically, because Gary's Nidoking is like huge, and then later you see a Nidoking that's just like the height of a person.
Okay, you just got me thinking. So either this has been a strange coincidence, or that a lot of editors from Bulbapedia listen to the show, because last week we talked about the Sentry with no face, and then they tweeted about it.
Yeah,
That cannot be a coincidence.
we're on to you.
We're on to you, Bulbapedia.
Wait,
we know you. So this.
Wait, what did you say in it? And they
Travis, you can say.
There's a faceless Sentret.
Oh, right.
Faceless
Because there's an episode. We were just stumbling around Bulbapedia for something else. We were talking about the Who's That Pokemon thing, and apparently there's an episode of Who's That Pokemon where it's like, it's Sentret, and then the Sentret has no face. It's just a
Weird.
Sentret. Like, it's a Sentret body, and I guess it doesn't really have a head. It's just like they just forgot to put the eyes, mouth, nose.
yeah, I see it. And that is weird.
And then, like 4 days later, Bulbapedia tweets about it. Like, look at what we found.
Yeah.
We're on to you,
Nuts.
Bulbapedia. We know where you're getting all the latest news from. I think that's all we got today for you guys. Unless there's a moveset you guys want to do for Porygon-Z.
Try attack, ice
Yeah.
beam.
Try attack and then coverage, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, try attack.
Maybe
ice
Nasty
beam,
Plot?
flame
I run Nasty
thrower.
Plot.
Yeah, Nasty Plot would be good. Or a choice spec, or a choice scarf or choice spec set, just with try attack and.
I would run, if it was my Porygon, I would run Sharpen, Defense Curl,
Okay.
Recycle,
Yeah.
and Conversion 2.
With lagging tail, right?
Yes.
I don't know what. Have we talked about Sharpen on the show? How it says in the description for Sharpen that it lowers their polygon count, even though. Because it's supposed to be for Porygon, but like Diancie can learn, or not Diancie, the Carbink can learn Sharpen, and it says lowers its polygon count. Weird. I don't know.
Spoiler,
It's Porygon
Carbink's
count.
actually virtual.
Steve, do you know what spoiler means? Because this is the second episode in a row where very strange things have been given spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, in the form of talking, it would just be a transitional word, like let's go or vamonos.
I think he means that when more information on Diancie is going to be released, it's going to be revealed that Carbink was all along just artificial Pokemon.
That is a
So
better
it's a
reason.
spoiler. It's a spoiler to that.
Yeah.
We know it first, and it's a spoiler.
Also, now,
then Bulbapedia
now
will
spoiler
tweet
alert
about
is
it.
a citation.
Wait, one more thing, guys. I was just thinking about this. I was going to bring it up, but I haven't yet. Do you think that, like, I tweeted about this, like Sabrina and Berg and gym leaders in higher population cities, they would probably be more used to being people's first gym leader, right? Because just more trainers start their journey there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's just interesting to think about. I don't know. That it's
and we
the-
know from Pokemon Organs
that they can. Yeah, exactly.
that they have different Pokemon to use.
Yep.
What if
So
the
we kinda
game was
think of it
actually
as-
like that?
I wish. What if you could like pick like a hometown? That would be the best.
That'd be so cool.
Ruby and Sapphire remakes. You pick your own town.
That would
Right.
that would like honestly make me want to get a Gen 3 remake.
That's the one thing that sells you on it.
Honestly, like that would be awesome.
That would
Because it's more of like making your own story, which is one of the things that like Pokemon claims to be good at, but like isn't that great at.
Didn't Gen 3 have secret bases?
Yeah.
That was pretty rad.
that was really
Back in the
really
day.
cool. It also had a lot of water.
It was really annoying that you had to have a Pokemon with hidden power to get to your secret base, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mhm.
I
that's
don't,
what.
I don't remember that.
Or was it secret
Well,
power or
I
nature
think
power?
I think it was C.
It depended on
power.
where you built it, right?
No,
Right.
it's all one. I think it's secret power. Wait. Damage dealing, normal type move, introduced in Generation 3. Yeah, I think it is secret power.
Regardless, it was really strange that you had to do that. Like, why not
Yeah.
just like be able to go into your secret hideout?
It
You
is-
built the place.
Strange to have a Pokemon that knows cut to get past a shrub.
It's also strange.
It's intimidating, man. It's intimidating.
Could be right next to your flying guy. It wouldn't work.
Travis,
Mm-hmm.
where can they find you?
Twitter.com/ What if I just said Twitter.com?
Yeah, you can
Look it, look
Good
it up.
luck.
You can find me
I
on
mean,
Twitter.
Look it up, man. It's like the white pages.
Twitter.com/ the Travis W.
There you go. David, where can they find you?
You can find me on twitter.com/DAVEDWTHO. Pronounce it however you like, but go follow me there.
There we go. Logan, thank you for being on.
Yeah, no problem. It was awesome.
Good. Glad
I'm on Twitter.
We definitely wasted
Wait, what?
your night.
Oh, no, it's not a waste at all. It was wonderful.
Where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at LoganJenkins.com. Also, is a thing I do. I just made it all one thing. It's mushed together. So Logan Jenkins on Twitter. LoganJenkins.com is my design site, and then DownPlusA.com is my comic with two friends that we
Is
put
that
together.
plus spelled out or?
Yeah, PLUSA.
Okay, just making sure that it's not like. All right, found it. Go check it out.
We got a bunch of pretty funny Pokemon comics on there.
And board game comics.
Yeah, they're all really funny,
They are funny.
I think, but I'm very biased.
Betrayal at the House on the Hill the other day.
Yeah, that game's good.
That's a fun one. Yeah.
It's
My group has
broken.
played it like 100 times. It's so good.
So,
It
so
is very
but
broken,
so
like-
good.
And also, you have to skip the Stuart Little encounter anytime you have it. If it says stuff about cats and planes, junk that, man. Do a different one.
Not good?
It's Stuart Little. You play the game Stuart Little. You're all mice, and you have to get away from the cats in a toy airplane.
Stuart
Does that
Little,
sound like
wow,
a
I
fun board
haven't,
game?
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Oh, gosh.
With the boat race, with the. Oh, God.
All right. You guys can find the podcast on Twitter at Pokemon Podcast. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PKMNcast. We are also on Google Plus and YouTube and Omni Radio and Stitcher Radio and Scatter Radio and iTunes. We still have some iTunes reviews to read on air. We will do that. Obviously, the show was really long, and I think you guys probably preferred a longer topic-based show instead of a longer review-based show. So we'll get to those reviews, no worries. We are at 385 reviews. From my understanding, what I hear through the grapevine is that what I hear is iTunes will consider your podcast on one of their top banners that they run once you hit 400 reviews. So we're just 15 reviews away from that. So if you haven't reviewed us, please do so in iTunes, because once we get to 400, that puts us into their eyes, their consideration. But that's just what I hear through the grapevine. Not like I have any connections or anything.
Hey, Steve,
Yes, David.
where would we find you on Twitter?
You guys could find me on Twitter at Dragging a Lake, DRAGGINGALAKE. And that's it. I think that's our show for you guys.
we go.
Thank you, David. Thank you,
You're very welcome.
Travis.
I was only here for half of the show, and I still feel like I've been here for an eternity.
Yeah, it's been long. Thank you, Logan.
It was my pleasure.
This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are,
Super effective.
Super effective.
spoiler alert, Vominos.